I think for us, the uncertainty actually, I hope, leads to some rigor in the way that we design and the projects that we take under and the attitude towards the projects that we take under. Sustainability is one of these overly used words that has almost been so overly used that it has no meaning. But I think we try to design with longevity, and if we're going to make on the mark on the ground, let's hope we do it pretty well and that it will last a long time. And I think I hope that sums up our sort of humble approach to the way that we've done this. I'm really honoured to be here. It's quite intimidating to be in one of the great academic institutions of the world, because and it's very far away from that or there. As Zach said, Rural Studio has been in existence since 1993. I joined about 27 years ago, not really knowing what the hell I was getting myself into, and Samuel Motley said there was enough money to last until Christmas. So the joke is absolutely on me, right? I hope tonight I can show you a little bit about the complexity of the place. I also hope I can show you the joy of the opportunity to design and make in a really positive making environment that kind of is sort of in some respects led by the attitude of local farmers, what they use, the things that are around them, right? And they have no fear. And particularly when we live in this sort of very fear-based world, I'm quite proud of the kind of the things that our students are emboldened to do. All the work, so just some things that you should know, all the work today that you're going to look at is essentially done by undergraduates. It's a 5-year program of architecture at Auburn University. Those students are between the ages of 18 and 23. They do, I think, pretty remarkably mature things. I just make sure that they don't crash off the cliff. They can go into the ditch, but not off the cliff. I think in some respects we've become the town architect, or perhaps the county architect. If we've done anything of worth, I think it's because we've stayed in one place for 33 years. We're a university program doing work in its own backyard, and often the most difficult work to do is in your own backyard. If we do good work, we don't hear about it, and if we do shitty work, we hear about it. So, and it's a phenomenal learning experience. We don't really have many books, so we don't have a great library, but we have an amazing array of buildings, and not only buildings, but organizations that we can look to kind of think about that kind of the question of building, again, longevity, I think, because the building's actually the easy part. Helping an organization maintain itself is the most difficult part, because organizations go up and down, the finances change, yada, yada, yada. So that uncertainty is what is with us every day. I think we have the luxury of asking some questions. I mean, I think typically at architecture school, you're saying, what can we do? And I think at Rural Studio, we ask the question, what should we do? I should tell you that we're a state organization. My incredible salary is paid by Auburn University, but all of the projects that we built, all the money, is either soft money, grant money, or money that is donated, or materials that are donated. So if there's anyone out there that's got tons of money and would really support this nonsense, let me know, because we're broke at the moment, and pretty much always broke. And we're able to spin it a long way. So supporters really love us, because the university doesn't take anything away. If you put money into this organization, it goes directly to bricks and mortar to help people, which is quite something, quite honestly. A couple of other sort of secrets are there's no money to police a building permit process out here, so there's not building departments. But we have a moral responsibility we're a state organization, so we build to the highest levels. All of our consultants work to the main building codes, whether it's electric, building regulations, you name it. We're doing that to the best that we possibly can. Actually, even better in many cases. So even looking at doing 45 buildings, so that are guaranteed, or we hope will last a lot longer. The other dirty secret is that this doesn't fit neatly into an academic calendar. We have third years who come in for a semester, and so we're typically taking 3 semesters to build a home, so that's 3 sets of third years that come in. The fifth years come out to this place with me for 9 months. They graduate after 9 months, and we're about to be able to start building then. So they commit their time and their energy to stay out there, and often they're staying 1, 2, 3 years afterwards to complete the project. But they get a remarkable experience from the first line drawn to the completion, and it's an incredibly, they're getting what you would probably get in an office in a couple of years what you would learn. It would take 10 years in an office to learn it. A lot of folks say that because they run the project, they work with consultants, they make a building set that they can build from, not a seat. It's much thicker than a construction set because they're actually going to build it, and they manage the budget. So they do everything, and we just hold their hand on the way. So I thought that was a good thing to be clear about. Typically, we're running about 6 projects a year, which means there's a couple of years of leftovers. We call them leftovers because they're completed and they're just completing their projects. So I think that's about it. The most important thing tonight, it's going to be a long night if you don't laugh at my jokes. Or I might start swearing a lot as well. So this is Newburn, town of 175 people at the last count, very small. This is downtown. If you drive too quickly, you miss it. This is where we live, where the Red Cross is, of course. Tail end of the Appalachian Mountains. This was an area, there was an inland lake in prehistoric times that when it disappeared, it left some beautiful black dirt there. That area was called the Black Belt, which runs through here. And so it was called the Black Belt because of the black dirt, not because there's a whole bunch of black folks there, although the Black Belt did instigate the cotton. So today, ironically enough, that Black Belt is also fiercely Democrat, generally because its inhabitants are black. We live in we're here, Newburn, West Alabama. Our university's in East Alabama. If you ever want to set up a program like this, make sure you're farther away from the mothership so that the grown-ups leave you alone. We're in the sort of civil rights triangle of Selma, Montgomery, and Birmingham. So we live with this every day. A lot of this was family on family, and this is just going to take a long time, and it's a struggle. So we don't try to tell people how to live their lives. We accept that, but we try to communicate with everybody. No, don't shut the world off. Just try to be decent to each other. So just a shout out for the rural. Often everyone's saying that the rural is dying. It's actually not true. It's been a pretty level population since, according to the census, since the early 1900s, of about 60 to 70 million. So what has changed is the urban population. This has pretty much stayed the same. So when people say it's dying, it's not dying. The question that really abounds is the way that cities, I think the relationship of urban to rural is a struggle. And too often, I live in an area that I call an extraction landscape. These areas like the Appalachians, the Mississippi Delta, the Colonias have been extracted from, and those materials, the wealth has disappeared from those areas, the materials have been taken away, and what you're left with is abject poverty. And that is just the truth. It's very colonial in that respect. What's shocking when I came here was understanding that kids in my neighboring county, Perry County, where Coretta Scott King was born, there are kids in that county, average kind of poverty level is like 80% for kids going to school, and that's just disgusting. And it doesn't matter what the school has if you're going home to that kind of abject poverty. So the other thing to say is, I think it would help if we were a more connected citizenry. I always show this because my internet provider gave me this competition map, and it proudly says that my internet is 1,140% slower than national average. Well, fucking hell, how are we going to take advantage of all of the healthcare things that are available online if I simply cannot get on the internet? So I ask you, we would be better off as a society having a more connected citizenry. This is what the studio looks like. As I said, fifth year undergraduates, we have third years that cycle in and out, and fifth years that get into indentured servitude. So we have built a lot, but it's a remarkable privilege to have all of that work around you. Often you see architects that go somewhere and they do something and then they don't live there, and I have the privilege and also the somewhat discomfort of being surrounded by the work that we do. And if you do good, you don't hear about it. It is a place of learning by doing. We only let the ladies use the big toys. This is downtown Newbern. I like to say this is the three fragile institutions: the architecture school, the post office, and the mercantile. This is inside the architecture school in 2004 when we moved in. And you have to really love your architecture school program. You have to love imagining being an architect in those circumstances. It got better, and the ridiculous thing, honestly, I'm being recorded, aren't I?
You can say whatever you want.
The university, after 22 years, we've been renting it, and the university decided it was not safe after 22 years. And so we've got into this process of the university trying to help us design, rebuild it. And it's not a pretty kind of circumstance. There's nobody like Zach there. I need Zach to come and help. So we chose to move into this building. After Mockbee died, we were scattered all over the town. I decided to take this building on. It was essentially being used as a hay barn at the time, but it was right in downtown Newbern. So it was, for us, it felt good to kind of get out of the boundaries of the bit of property that we own and kind of engage with the town. So we do things like the pumpkin carve with the local kids. We have costume contests. We even have a spectacular day. The same day we do a review, an serious architectural review. These are dressed as toilets, and they're talking about a really important house. With actually West Franklin right with that. And that used to be me. That was my previous profession. It was fun today to hear the folks cheering in the structures. But we have amazing visitors that come in now. Really, the profession really engages with our program, and you name it, we have folks coming through here. It's literally like the Flatos and the Blackwells, and they love it, and they come and they give a talk. They spend the day reviewing, and then they spend the day with the students actually drawing the project with them. So the students are actually getting to understand how a professional will deal with it. So this guy's an engineer Texan out of London at the moment, comes and he does these full proportional scale modeling that allows the students to understand more intuitively how a structure works. Because at architecture school, we don't teach structures particularly well. We didn't get them designing beams, and that ain't really, there's not much point to that, to be honest. So, and this is here's a famous Glenn Mercup, who said, yeah, he'd come visit us, but only if he was coming to, he's part of the Pritzker Boys committee, so he's coming to USA and he stopped by, so that was amazing. The rest of downtown, this is a gal that likes to call herself Beyonce in the post office. And then Newburn Mercantile, unfortunately this guy retired after 39 years and 10 months. It's been a struggle to replace him. These places are really fragile, but this was the center of the community. They've been doing short order cooking there, but at the moment it's been closed and there's somebody coming in and renovating it. So the fact that Rural Studio is not in the Red Barn at the moment also is not helped downtown. So it's a very fragile, we're in Tornado Alley. Essentially, the economy is based on timber, also beef. They went through dairy. Beef is, selling at a higher rate. They also do catfish, that beautiful black dirt. A lot of it has washed away, been over-cultivated, been poisoned. And so underneath that, now that that's gone, is expansive red clay. Somebody figured out that if you dug a hole and then filled it full of water, that it would suddenly supersaturate the edge and the perimeter of the pond, and so you could make a relatively inexpensive pond. So we are the catfish capital of West Alabama, of Alabama. So our students, we're very much, I think we're a housing first, but also timber first organization. We have our students studying the historic antebellum homes, not because of their dubious origins, but just, well, how have they managed to survive 150 years? What were the lessons that we can learn? Good cross ventilation, tall ceilings, transom windows, porches, all the good stuff, right? And we have our students drawing them. These are some incredible structures out there that any architect would be proud of. So they do watercolors of these to really, we want them to really look at what there is around them. In our wood shop, we don't have any CNC routers. It is all hand tools and table saws, and we have them we don't ask them to design a piece of furniture, we ask them to design the process of building the piece of furniture. So they get to understand that. They make a whole lot of jigs because we don't have any fancy equipment. And they get to feel that material, sniff it, get in on their hands, understand how to cut it, understand its fragility. Here's, what's the bent plywood?
Laminating?
Well, it's laminated, but it's the Eames-Cher. Yeah. So, and you can see in 16 weeks, these kids, they get it, and they're able to create these extraordinary pieces of furniture, and it's kind of miraculous to see them do that. So all that works in about a 25-mile radius, just so we can keep on top of it, manage the students. First projects, really house projects underneath the radar. This is Samuel Motley's hands all over this. This is the house for Shepherd and Alberta Bryant, the great southern porch, built of straw bales, and then the smokehouse built out of roadside concrete. So a lot of those early houses, quite idiosyncratic, built for single particular families. This was built out of 30,000 carpet tiles hand stacked. This was for the daughter of Shepherd and Alberta. It's not probably something that I would do today, but these tiles they had been kept in a storehouse for 10 years. They'd never been used. They had off-gassed, and we said, well, why not? And Interface gave us 30,000 to build the house. And you'll see the walls are really beautiful. We tested them for fire. We tried to burn it. You couldn't burn it. And they're really acoustically and thermally really good. Of course, the students screwed it all up by making a tornado shelter here and then designing what looks like a tornado. It's been hit by a tornado on top of it. But the inside is beautiful. This is AJ. His performances at school went through the roof after living here. And Lucy, she's so proud of this house. It's like I'm the only person with a carpet house in the entire world. But we in the early 2000s, I think we were students were running before they could walk. And we said, let's challenge ourselves to use a local material, let's use timber, and let's be creative with that. And so this was kind of moving into that strategy. This is a house for this lovely gal, Rosalie Turner. All of this was hand milled by the students. This is about 2.5 inches of cedar, making this great porch. And there's the Queen of Whitsnip sitting on her porch guarding the territory. And then in the late 90s, we started to get requests to do community projects. This is a beautiful little one that we did in Mason's Bend, same place as those houses, using windshields from Chevrolet Caprice automobiles, not Oldsmobile. But the students realized that those glass windshields had holes in them and they could attach them to another frame. And at architecture school in the late 90s, everybody was wanting to do fish skins because Frank Gehry was doing it. So we did them with automobile windows, sat on top of a beautiful red clay rammed earth wall. A spectacular piece, but the problem with this, and this is where you start to learn lessons, is this had no way of closing it up and protecting it, and the local kids would come in and scroll their name and kind of graffiti, and not necessarily they weren't understanding it as vandalism, they were just they were owning it. But visitors and people from the outside would show up and say, don't these fucking people care about this? And the locals are actually going out to work and earning a crust. So you live and learn. This is also one of the very early projects, a magnificent tire chapel built of 3,000 tires filled with rammed earth, covered in a pink concrete, salvaged roof. This is and this was named one of the buildings of the century by, I forget which one of the magazines, but it's a remarkable piece. Again, Moxie's hands all over it. You can look, here's the pulpit looking down across the ravine falls away. This was all salvaged, and this is a view looking back into it. It's just remarkable, but at the time it was done for a family, and then they died, and then they passed it on, and now nobody can go and see this because it was done for a private family. So when I showed up in Hale County, there was still, in the 2000s, there was still sheds standing on dirt. What's happened for the last, basically 30 years is the trailer homes have been moved in as affordable housing. They are a con. They are, I don't know, I could use all sorts of naughty words, but they're designed to move down the road. They are not real property. They are chattel property. Either you use the same type of loan to get one of these that you do an automobile. So you pay through the nose on the interest rate, and if you eventually own this after 30 years, it's fallen into the ground. It's not about human beings, it's about moving it down the road. So we said, could we come up with, because the whole thing is sort of brilliant in its own way. You can go to a parking lot and pick out the home you want and they'll deliver it next way. Architects can't really do that. So we said, well, what kind of house could we, given those parameters, and at least kind of try to imagine some form of competition for those, not to necessarily replace it. But if you're looking at a dollar figure for a month, what could people afford? And in 2003, we said about $108 a month in a mortgage. Now, whether or not that kind of mortgage exists is not my problem, but if you look at that, that came about to a 30-year, $20,000 mortgage over about 30 years. And we said, could you divvy that up so you could also build the homes locally and keep the money in the local economy instead of sending the money with the trailers over to the Carolinas, right? So this is the kind of impact it could have in a little place like ours. And that name, 20K, was never deliberate, but it was a nickname and it got out in the world. And 5 years later, you spend all your time saying, well, we can't actually do it for 20K anymore. So you spend more time apologizing than you do actually just getting on with it. So we've been looking at this problem for the last, 20 odd years, trying to use the fact that we build either a house or a couple of houses every year. If you think about trying to design a really affordable small house, nobody can afford to spend the design time that we've done on this. This is billions of hours. So no architect, no contractor. It's a shame the state and the feds won't do anything like this, but it seems like almost a moral responsibility for an academic organization to do this. So we've been at it, and we build these homes locally. We give them to a particular client. The agreement is that our kids are in the front yard, et cetera, and we get to go and see how they live in it. So the early years and some of the best models, and they were never meant to be sort of traditional homes or traditional models. And this is a shotgun. They call it a shotgun because you shoot your gun through the front door and out the back. But it's actually just the economy of materials. The tree hasn't really changed for 150 years, so a tree can about span 14 feet. So that's what drove this. It was the efficiency of materials. So, and this is a tough art. I mean, there's not much design in this. You're making a decision about ceiling heights. You've got 5 windows, 2 doors. Trying to thicken up the depth of the window to bounce more light into the space. Amazing the difference that a 9 and 10 foot ceiling makes in a little house. Just fucking amazing, right? So, Mac's house, center entrance, live on one side, play on the other side, sleep on the other side. Kind of modified dog trot, what we called it. Again, this house was named after Mac. Here's Mac in his home. Square house that we decided to go after the challenge or the premise that if you do a square or a round, it actually gets you more square or round based on the perimeter. So this is the same perimeter as the other ones, but a greater square footage because it's nearer to a square or a round. And it's actually pretty efficient. Much less circulation. You bounced into the center. This is a view. And architecture school, we have conversations about where to put the great ugly American refrigerator. Right? Bounce the line off the face of the refrigerator, or put it here, right? Our program has the third years take these models and they modify them. So this is an example. Joanne's home became Ophelia's home. We had realized that we needed to kind of offer an option for another bed in the house. So we gave this house a sleeping nook that allows her son to come in the back door, so 2 people can live in this house. And Ophelia says this house is a 2-bedroom house. She wanted to live in the living room. So you also learn from the past. This is how houses evolve. This is 1960. It's a local house. You build 1 room at a time. The problem with that is you do a separate foundation every time. You have problems with the eave levels, and that moment there is where this whole house fails, right? So we started to say, can we look at making multi-generational housing and give it some adaptability and flexibility? Questioning whether or not we could do external expansions, because every time you add on, you have a fallible point. So we looked at the kind of multi-generational cast of characters. In rural areas, you don't build a home to build wealth. You build it and the family inherits it. It's not about wealth building at all. So this is one that we did, put a big shed, build a big shed, big slab, build some objects underneath it. So you spend the money on the big shed. We talked to FEMA about this because of the stupid trailers that they give to people that are supposed to be temporary and they end up being permanent. Could you build a big shed, put some pieces underneath, and then the idea behind this one is that Reggie could actually extrude it out this way and extrude it backwards and have a 5-bedroom house for himself. This is also plumbed. This was the bonus room, and that's his living unit. So this is the one that was actually shown at the Venice Biennale recently. So we're also looking at the second story. In those early houses, we weren't inhabiting the gable upstairs. So looking at what we call attic trusses. This house is an up and over house. It has 2 entrances. One entrance is to a unit in the back, so that here is a little kitchenette, bathroom, 2 bedrooms back here. And then there's a door that separates it from the rest of the house. So this could either be a 4-bedroom, 5 to 6 person home, or she's got, and this is Patrice. Patrice is now running a hairdressing salon out of the back unit, right? So again, allowing people to and this is inside the kitchen in her main unit. up the staircase, the ribbon cutting, there's Patrice, the kid. These are kind of drawings that we do. We get our students to do full-scale, one-to-one hand drawings so they can actually understand that there's actually, when you put it in the computer, those two lines there become one line. And the fucking computer lies to you. So, right? That's a stick. That's another stick. They butt up to each other, right? This is a house that we built for a guy called Ethen. This is 18 by 18. Ethen was living in this, which is another greatest raw invention. Instead of trailers, you now get these mini-me's, and you just send an extension cord out of the trailer to the mini-me. They're not insulated. And Ethen was an amazing young fella. He's bridging the gap between we have a segregated we have white school, private, and local state schools that are predominantly black. And he's somebody that's really working hard to get those kids to talk to each other. He wants to stay. His family owned this property since they were given it post-slavery. And this is called King Hill, and so Ethen is the king of the hill. The family, there's another issue out in these sorts of areas, a thing called heirs property, which is black folks, when they were given property at the end of slavery, they were not given access to good legal help. And so if you didn't write a will, the property was divvied up between all of your kids. And then if they had kids, then the property was divvied up between, 64 kids or 16 kids, whatever the math is, right? And then one person can sell it out from under them, and nobody can make any decisions. Plus, if there's a tornado goes through here, I can't prove direct ownership of the property. So when it works well, it's actually fine. This whole property was managed by the two matriarchs in the family. They have said, this is the home for anybody that goes away from here. If they need to come back home, they can come back here. And Ethen literally had, a 30-foot square in this. And we had a contractor, one of our colleagues, a consultant out of Nashville, who, Jesus, it's already 7 after 7. I'm going to have to go really fast. But we were challenged to look at doing an 18 by 18 house, because in developing housing in Nashville, they were challenged that they could get rid of 2 parking spaces if they could build a house on 18 by 18. So this is a house that we built for Ethen. This is actually Ethen here, Swedish guy. It's a staircase up, the view out of his loft. Really beautiful piece. Ribbon cutting, DT. So what's actually spawned out of that that's actually remarkable, instead of us just working with local clients, suddenly Fannie Mae came to us in 2018 and said, we have rural mortgages, but we have no housing models for those rural mortgages. And they came to us, a Podum university program in West Alabama, and said, can you help us? And so we've taken 6 of our prototypes. The first thing we did was we started to kind of make IKEA drawings, so you have a manual of how to build a house. More recently, what we've been doing is really looking at how much these things cost to run in the long term. So we're really starting to look at the performance of the envelopes, so we can encourage the housing partners to actually build more expensive houses up front, because they're saving money in the long term running the houses. So the beauty of all of this is that we're actually our front porch initiative is working with builders, not-for-profit housing providers, and they're giving information and questions back to us. So we've now got this big kind of information loop that's working kind of remarkably well. Just taking the prototypes that we're developing here, kind of gives me goosebumps. Now they end up, they all end up getting bastardized. They're not necessarily pretty, but they have this high performance goal, and also looking at long-term durability, like what's it called? I've just mentioned it, but the fortified and kind of guarantees that you can make with all of that. So Obviously, with a lot of these organizations, they get the kind of shittiest property, the cheapest land. In this case, this was a steeply sloping land, and they were able to work with the local municipality to revise the ordinance to build 4 small houses on it. This is another example in Florida, 4 different types that were built by the Habitat for Humanity. So we have something like, I think the most recent numbers were 30 different partners across 9 states in the South that are building our homes, which just gives me goosebumps that we're kind of having that impact. Relative to the community stuff, you know, a lot of the stuff that we do is wood-based. All of these projects are designed and built by 4 students. This is Newburn Firehouse. This is also PPE. This is what you wear when you're working on a job site in Newburn for all studio. And this is what a client looks like. And this is the first public building in Newburn for 110 years. Get people to work together, hit them in the pocketbook. So insurance rates were going up. There were local fires. The fire departments around there were too far away. So they got together, they organized it, and they realized that they could actually get some money for fire trucks to fight local bushfires, and all they needed was a building that could make sure that the fire truck did not freeze, because we carry water to the site in the pumper truck. So that truck cannot freeze, right? We then worked with the mayor to do a new town hall. This was all built out of 8 by 8 cypress logs stacked on top of each other with threaded rods coming up. You can see there's a gasket and a spline there that connects them together. This was the major structural challenge, was a big entranceway, so we loaded it up with idiots. This was one of the first meetings in the town hall, was to talk about the fact that the world had decided to close our post office to 4 inconvenient hours a day, although the post office is still open, but it struggles, you know. So the challenge of this was making a 7-foot tall, 11-foot tall wall that was predicted to shrink up to 3 inches. So what do you do with a window in that? If the wall's going to do that. So we put the windows on the outside and the doors on the inside. The beauty of that, and that was all practical, it was not sexy. Big roof was also not sexy. It's basically, you could build with mashed potatoes underneath it if you put a big roof on it. But it's also nice that you can really see that that building is made of 8 inches of timber, you know. Incredibly mature project, that project. These 6 ladies, I guess it's 5 ladies and me, they had this gal who was a postmaster. She would not call herself the postmistress. She bugged me for about 5 years to do a library, so we took the old bank building in Newburn and transformed it from that to this. Really beautiful piece, prefabricated plywood boxes are hung on the wall. One of the main things that we found in this project that really changed it, you can see the bank vault. We moved the door to the front. We had to demolish the bank vault because there was a crawl space in here, and the road out here and the road to the left were built after, or they were added to later. And so all the water was running into the crawl space. So we found this bank vault was wicking water up into the bank, or what was a bank, and that's the last thing you can have in the library is humidity in the space. So we took the bank vault down and we made the courtyard out of the bricks from the bank vault. So really, it's been a spectacular success. It's really, ironically enough, at the same time our Newburn school closed. So this has become even more important for after-school things that they're providing. This gal hit Dr. King from the Ku Klux Klan 2 weeks before he was assassinated. She hid him in this front back room in their house. She instigated a small museum to that event, but also to celebrate the foot soldiers of the rural civil rights movement. So we got involved. She asked me to kind of help take the building into the 21st century. She wanted it connected together. She wanted it cleaned up, and she also wanted an extra museum space where they could also have exhibits that changed, because if you've got a small museum that doesn't have anything changing, nobody will go a second time. So this was the back, demolished that, extruded this side. You can see the walkway that connects the two together. A single entranceway, so again, everybody goes into the same entrance. That was the message. The walkway that connects them together. We found this under the stuff that was on the wall, and we're like, wow, this is beautiful. But we checked with the client that we weren't patronizing them, because it's like, what is one man's art is another man's garbage. But they loved it, and we kept it. So this is the exhibit space for the night that King was there. It has these amazing photographs and mugshots of people that were arrested during the civil rights movement, and you get kids going in today saying, that's my granddad. And granddad was too embarrassed to tell his family that he'd been arrested. So, yeah. So that's the exhibit space. So that's the opening. I quickly put this in for, our sexy architects over here. This is a labella structure. These are sticks that you cut. There are about 3 different types of cut. We built the whole thing together. We were trying to understand other ways to make, instead of making big sheds out of steel, could you make it out of timber? So we built ourselves a jig. We put that jig on wheels. We built a grade beam all along the side. The wheels sat on the grade beam. It's on hydraulics. You lift it up, you build it, you lower it, move it along, lift it up, build it. So you can actually build this. Could have kept going to Mississippi. There's one of our team. Beautiful structure. That's the animal shelter today. Always looks like an art gallery. Doesn't quite look like an art gallery today. And then we used that same jig. I told the kids that were working in the Boys and Girls Club they had to use the jig again. So they figured out how to tilt the jig over and make a basketball court for the kids. There you see the jig. They actually made an addition to the jig. That's ridiculous. We started to do a multi-year projects. That got in there by mistake. Looking at timber, this was the biggest project we've ever done, Boys and Girls Club, made out of layers of OSB. So we had these huge, great, long spans. Didn't need a crane at any moment. We built jigs and then built stick framing on top of them to make the beams, and then did the NDS nailing pattern to build the beam. So never needed a crane for this project at all. That's the inside, all covered in OSB. So you put OSB up and you can't see the nailing pattern on it, So really been quite wonderful and durable. That last image was supposed to be here. That's because I showed and moved it around for you guys. So this is Oxbow Lakes. We were asked to reopen a park that had been closed in the 70s. Beautiful Oxbow Lakes. We built this pavilion. The community wanted something that could get on the front of the newspaper that they could talk about. So this gets the borrowed light into the space. These 4, the mayor and the probate judge liked it so much they carry photographs around of the project. And when we came to doing the restrooms, they said, we don't want anything prefabricated. We don't want any prefabricated shit. We want you to build us some restrooms. And so these kids built this walkway to the pavilion, and then they sort of challenged themselves to do the 3 most remarkable pooping experiences in the United States. So there's a tall toilet, a mound toilet, and a long toilet. So this is Zach talking to the sky here. That's fitting in the long toilet. Here's the long toilet. So again, you can sit on the john and talk to the tree. And then this is the mound toilet. And you can see the mound as a horizontal slot. So this sits in the fire lane. So you can sit on the john and just shoot the deer as they're running across the fire lane. The community wanted us to build a birding tower, which is no small project. But we also had to get across a creek to get to where they wanted it built. So we built this 3 Toblerone truss made of 3 pieces that then hung the walking trail from. So this is a engineer's sketch of it. Tie down here, load here, cantilever here. Same at this end, and then you drop the center piece in. Kinds of drawings, shop drawings our kids make. So then here's the trusses we built close by. We then put a trailer axle on it and a towing hitch, and that's me actually holding up the back end of it as this thing was, we were running this thing down the road. And then we got Crane Works to run as a crane for the Saturday. And they dropped them in place, and then can you believe the center one actually fit? So, but it's a beautiful piece. It's a kind of classic lesson of lifting the structure out of the ground and then wrapping the structure with a roof, and it looks as good today as it did then. And then the the burning tower, the community wanted the burning fraternity to come and spend their money, because they spend a lot of money apparently with the burning fraternity. So we tried out of wood and realized that was a stupid idea, and then somebody showed up and said, why don't you go and get one of those disused fire watchtowers? And I kid you not, within a week these guys had found one of these towers, and they got it given to us for $50, and I was like, oh shit, okay. What do I do here? And I said, in 2003, I said, look, you're all grown-ups, let's go and get your training, and then you can decide. So they were trained on the tower itself. That's me having a chat with non-grey hair. And then they took it down piece by piece from the top. They had it re-galvanized. We figured out a way to put helical anchors into the ground, so no concrete. They actually installed the helical anchors themselves. And there it sits. And it's just an incredible piece. And they built this beautiful walking trail to it that zigzags over the ecotone, just touching the ground on these single helical anchors. Really beautiful. So that inspired us. We were asked in 2001 to take on a 40-acre park. I said, we have no experience of multi-year projects, multi-phase projects. And then we did that park, and I said, well, okay. They came back to us in 2006, and I said, okay, you want to try this? And they said yes. So we then went on this remarkable adventure for 10 years with this group of folks, one project a year, $50,000 seed money, completely re-envisioned the park. New entranceway, everything that you see from here over was raw studio and students, apart from a couple of buildings that were supposed to be part of a business park. This was supposed to be a business park. They put some higgledy-piggledy playground stuff in here. All the cars were driving in, and they said, enough is enough. And we actually designed this. So we did gates, identity, these sticks covering where electrical power runs and water lines. We did the ball fields first, because they make a space called the Grand Central with the arms going out from the center of the ball fields. We did restrooms that catch water off the roof to flush the toilets. We put ball field lights up. We did a concession stand that opens and closes like a mouth, so that this lid actually sits on top of there. But true story. We were talking about this project just looking like this, and a plumber friend of mine was in town helping with the plumbing on this, and we were trying to put glazing in here, and he's like, Andrew, why don't you guys just make it move? And we were like, oh, you're right. So it literally opens it. That's the pivot point here, and it just lifts and it beeps when it opens and closes. So, whoops. Died on this, I didn't know. Oh dear.
Oh, meeting ended. That's not good.
Okay, let's see. All right, there you go. I got it.
Hold on.
All right.
I've got to record you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, there's no point to any of this without recording you. Just kidding. Sorry.
Is it your meeting or my meeting?
It's my meeting. Bear with me. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah. See, you're just reducing the amount of
I
time.
wonder how much of this we lost. Probably all of it.
Oh, he was really cute, isn't he?
You're the only ones who'll ever know what he said. Congratulations.
Really?
I got the backup.
Yeah, I never even pressed record.
Excellent. Okay. No
So good at
evidence
my
of me
job.
swearing.
All right, go on.
All right. So, interesting going, typically you're doing a big park project like this, you need multi-million dollars, you need a master plan, and you need the money up front, you've got to have a vision. We were able to do this $50,000 at a time, and even improvise. And we just kept what was running this called a strategic plan. And 5 years in, Tony Hawk offered $30,000 to have a conversation about a skate park. We built the whole park for $30,000. And then we built this playground out of 3,000 barrels. And you get a lot of barrels and they kind of, one barrel and they're kind of ugly, but you put a lot of barrels together and put them together very precisely. That's a fun thing. At the opening, our students played the whole thing like the Blue Man Group. This was a scout hut that we built in the same park. Thinnings, waste from the forest, the ballast holding the building down and tensioning the truss. Exercise stations that we tucked into the forest and made these kind of elegant platforms. Shading structures, as we didn't think the trees were going to grow fast enough, but they did. So this is it today, and it's really a remarkable thing. These kids built a again, the kind of wood question. Yeah, sorry, that was the wrong place. So one thing that we have done, I'm just going to mention this. We started to test things on ourselves. So one of the issues with our housing scenarios is that you get out there in the real world and all of these corporations are kind of inventing all of these different materials and layers, and you're kind of blackmailed into doing the right thing and feeling that you have to keep wrapping your buildings with stuff. And most of the time you don't know what that stuff is actually made of. So we started calling it this and this, and it's just junk. You don't know what it is. So we started working with a scientist who was at McGill at the time, now in at UCLA, and he said, what happens if we start to use timber? We accept that sometimes it's leaky, we stack it, and could we think about using timber as a heat exchanger? So in this case, his idea was that if you have heat inside, it goes out through a chimney, it draws cooler air in. Could you manage the holes in the wall so that the tributary area would actually, that cooler air coming in would actually capture some of that heat that was actually being lost by the wall? So embrace the fact that walls lose energy, but also thinking about what we know today about building in timber, So we went on this remarkable adventure from sort of desktop, testing the wall, testing the idea, using blower door vents to kind of really understand whether this premise was actually true, even installing our own heat sensors and heat producers so that we can really manage the kind of the science of that. This is testing the idea of hot air rising, cool air falling, etc. So it went from that scale to building scale. We tested this premise on ourselves. We built these 2 pods for the students to live in, and this was them testing how to stack the wood, how to make it tight. Do you run it horizontally or vertically? But this was us trying to say, could an academic institution, could architects get into these conversations instead of it just being big tech, big corporations that are kind of driving the bus? Could we have a say in this conversation and bring some knowledge to the table through building it? So that was one idea, and we've got students living in this and testing this. The other was thinking about using thermal mass on whatever you cover the interior of a room with. Could you start to use that and imagine controlling the movement of air through the space and the air changes per hour? But could you, in the diurnal cycle, think about that internal wall as being a thermal mass, and in the diurnal cycle, in the heat, could it take energy in, and then at night, could it radiate it, and vice versa? And so we built these 2 test pods that have a chimney at the top and the bottom. We built a sunken garden underneath it, so you can actually sitting here in the warm weather and feel that cool air being generated. So there was a visceral impact of this interior thermal mass. And the major challenge to us with these 2 products, and this whole thing came from a Harvard study that we still This was all about, this is how termites in these very, very hot places have their own internal isolated thermal mass that tempers the environment inside of them. We got into even, the scientist that we're with has now invented this this app where you can put any type of material in there and understand its thermal capacity, right? And its capacity to exchange energy. So we did various types of testing. This idea that it's through the diurnal cycle. I've got, at night it's cooling down. I've got cool air dropping through the space. During the day, I've got warm air rising. What's the impact on that material on the inside? And actually, it starts to be quite dramatic. So if you can see the external temperature, the internal temperature stays remarkably temperate and level, and you don't have these huge great swings. So we built these two things, we tested them. This is the world's biggest slab holding these two things up off the ground. This was again built by 4 students. So here's the area where you can sit and feel that cool air. This is the inside of the concrete one. So we tested concrete against wood. In the concrete one, we had 4 walls of concrete, 3/4 of an inch thermal mass. So everyone thinks you need a whole shitload of thermal mass. If you have a lot of thermal mass, it never releases it. So if you've got 3/4 of an inch, it takes it in and then it releases it. And you don't need to spend a lot of money on concrete. And what we did was we worked out prior to the test, what could we do with wood? So we had 1.5 inches, 2 layers of plywood on 6 walls, and they both performed exactly the same. Amazing. So you think about we throw drywall up on the walls inside buildings. We could think about managing the air movement through the space, etc., which is what this is all about. But there are other ways to think about all of this. So, and that's an opportunity. We're not testing on clients. We're literally having our students living in these testing rooms. So they are the guinea pigs. Last thing to say, we've really got into the housing. I think we've really understood that the house is not the problem, it's the system that is the problem, whether it's access to loans. It's a really complicated scene, is the housing scene. The house is a really small part of this. But also in our area, food, we're in a food desert, quite frankly, which is shocking. People will drive 10 miles to Piggly Wiggly to buy prepackaged food, which is just shit. It's probably healthier to eat the plastic than it is to eat the stuff. The problem is for a place like where I live, and maybe nobody cares, but the industrialization of farming and that landscape has also led to the industrialization of delivery of food. So all these places now, they have all of this stuff. And they all look the same. And we've lost that. We've both lost that food that was brought locally. And the other issue is that it's a health question. If anybody wants to know what a McDonald's Happy Meal looks like after 3 years, this is a McDonald's Happy Meal after 3 years. Don't run off tonight and have a McDonald's Happy Meal, because it will just sit inside you forever. The French fries, they smell exactly the same. The burger, nothing. It was like, can't believe it. Anyway.
Open air. Open air.
Oh yeah. So you have this, and this is a national, amongst many national disasters. This is we're in, I would say, probably Alabama, maybe 80% obesity. It's a catastrophe for us all. So we said, could we produce our own food? We also asked the question, why was nobody growing locally available fresh vegetables? So we built our own commercial kitchen and said, let's put ourselves to the challenge of growing our own food. So today we grow from seed, we plant, we care for, we harvest, and we eat together. We built a greenhouse. We use those barrels again. We fill them full of water so that the low winter sun heats up those barrels of water and then radiates during the day. So you don't have any freezing in your greenhouse. We started growing in the front yard. It really became a soil remediation project. because of that, the washed away soil. So that's taken a lot of time, but we're doing no-till. This is inside the greenhouse. We did a column of water to pressurize the drip feed system in there. You don't have to put a whole lot of water up top. You can actually store the water in a big vat at the bottom and then just pump it to the top and then it'll pressurize it, which we hadn't figured out until we did it. And then here's the greenhouse. And so here it's a no-till system. Essentially, we're either planting or we're growing cover crops. We then cover the cover crops with black plastic that dies. We broad fork it and then we start again. And we're doing 8,000 pounds of vegetables a year, and all of our students work on it every morning. This was one of the great things about this was it really raised the question of who was producing locally, and one of the local mayors asked us to build a place where these people could display their vegetables. So we built this that could be moved down the street. Oops. Again. Oh, that's all right. Oh, this thing is supposed to be a video. It's supposed to be a sexy video, top-notch video. I don't think it loaded, did it?
This one? That one?
No. Oh, sorry. Keep going. That one was supposed to be a video. I don't know if it is.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Oh, no. We could only see the
No, we're missing the link. Sorry about that.
Oh, it is missing one. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's all right.
That's my fault.
No, it's all right. So, I mean, it speaks for itself. It's been a huge success in our community. So, Mennonite, black folks, white folks. So, I didn't do so bad. 737. Be careful with this. Trust this stuff. If you all want to come for a party, 24th and 25th of April, we take a caravan around our in-progress projects. Then we roast the students, we have fireworks, we have bands, and it's a lovely kind of community festival. So I will shut up.
Wow.